and welcome to my channel When the Stars Aligned. Today's video is about this new moon that's happening in Gemini. I really want to make a devoted plan, a devoted flow to posting on every new and full moon, or about every new and full moon, because for me it's such a beautiful way to anchor. Just like, it's good to know what season it is, right? Is it summer, spring, winter, fall? What's going on in the weather? Why not have a psychological map as well for the currents that are impacting us, that are very real, very raw, and very visceral parts of this reality, just perhaps not as physically visible to the eye. And I don't have my equipment with me. I wasn't planning to make this video here and now, but it wanted to come through, so I'll see what I can do with the audio once I get this on my computer, but it's gonna have to do. And this new moon feels like a very big turning point. And I say that because Gemini as an archetype, as a psychological expression of our innermost feelings and disposition, whether you have Gemini in your chart or not, we are as a collective moving through these archetypes. And Gemini is an air sign. It's the first of the air signs, and it's what is it to explore? What is it to express? What is it to communicate? What is it to be curious and playful and not too hung up on one thing, and not too hung up on what's far away in the distance? What is local? What is close? What is right within our reach? And what are the varying ways in which we can explore that? An astrologer who I've mentored with over the years, one thing he said that really stuck with me is Gemini is gem in the eye. It's the twinkling eye. It's the effervescent curiosity. It's the perpetual child in us that says, well, what if I do things that way? And what if I explore here and explore there? And what I really feel with this Gemini new moon is that it's inviting us into embracing new ways of going about familiar things and new familiar things. And this has been building for a while. And to me, this Gemini new moon feels like a lightning and a rebirth. We have the choice to see through new eyes, but are we hanging on to those glasses and that prescription that's no longer serving us, right? It's like maybe you had bad eyesight and you had a certain prescription of glasses and you needed that to see. But then your eyes heal and you use those same glasses and it's all blurry and fuzzy and confusing and you get a headache. I think that's what this Gemini new moon is inviting us into. It's like, take off the glasses that are not serving you. Just because it served you before does not mean it's going to serve you now. What is your new normal? What is your new familiar? And how can you build new communication around that? How can you flesh that out and live into that and relinquish what perhaps may have been serving you before but is not serving you now? And this is coming from someone who has a lot of Scorpio and Capricorn. These are the pretty predominant rulers in my chart, by far. And if you have Capricorn in your chart in any place where it's very prominent, perhaps your rising, your sun, or a lot of Saturn energy, a lot of 10th house energy, for all of us, these times have probably been a little bit catalytic, and especially 2019 into 2020, we had a lot going on with Capricorn. And there was a lot of emotional intensity needed, a lot of deep diving, a lot of facing stuff and having things go through upheaval and change. And I really feel like this Gemini new moon is like, it doesn't have to be hard. Take what you've learned and move forward. Embrace the new normal. And I think that as a collective, with what's been going on the planet, there has been a lot of emotion. There has been a lot of shadow to be explored. And I think that just as much as that's beautiful, that can also be a trap. We can get stuck in the trap of approaching things with a real emotional density, whereas actually what they may want is creativity and more of an evolution, solution-focused approach. Not how are we going to make it better, but who do I get to be within this? What's available for me here? How can I explore and expand with my community, right? Because Gemini is it's a very communal energy, but it likes to flutter. A little sparkle there, a little sparkle here with like-minded souls. So what is one of my other favorite astrologers, perhaps I'll tag her channel below here, she, in her recent astrological lunar cycle report, mentioned that it's about, bringing awareness to what does local really mean to us. Local is like supporting your local businesses, your local community. What about also local connections? People who have a certain familiarity within the same topic. And I think that this new moon is really giving us a chance to, like I said, take off the unserving prescription glasses that we've been wearing before and really ask ourselves, what matters to me now? What is my new local? What do I really want to grow within and expand my vocabulary within as I am now? And perhaps the tools that we needed before are not going to serve us in what's coming next. And we have some interesting aspects going on to Saturn right now with this new moon. Sorry, the sun's right in my eye. Okay, maybe that's better. Oh, we'll see. I got the gem in the eye. So Saturn is making a trine to the moon. And often trines show a sign of friendship. It's an aspect that brings friendliness and a certain support. However, when it's a more malefic planet, it can bring a little bit of stress. So Saturn is one of the more malefic planets because it wants to really slow things down and constrict and kind of dries things up. And Gemini is the opposite. Gemini is very juicy, very expansive, not constricted whatsoever. Really actually rebelling against constriction in some ways. So that's something to be aware of with this new moon and going into Gemini season. Be aware of when you're putting on the brakes, or perhaps if you're squeezing yourself too dry around something, embrace freshness and trust in the long-term longevity. Let yourself explore, let yourself play, let yourself build up a new vocabulary, invite a new way of being, a new way of doing. Perhaps you are not resonating with your old way of doing things. And this is something personally I've been really getting to explore in real time in my meditation, in my creativity, in all aspects of my life, seeing how I've had old lenses that I've collected through relationships, through partnerships, through experiences that actually aren't serving me anymore. And I think that this is a big thing for us collectively. We're starting to really assess, what are my values? What really makes sense to me? And that may involve the shedding of old value systems and old emotions and old attachments that don't allow you to be free and expressive and exploratory within your realm of genius, within your new normal, within your new familiar, and giving yourself the permission to flesh that out. So yeah, this Saturn presence can also give us a lot of, the benefit is it can give us a lot of integrity to show up for what we really believe in, to show up for this new way we want to communicate ourselves. I just think the biggest thing to look out for here is don't do things just because it's the way you've always done them, unless they feel good. Don't do it just because that's the way it's been done, or you feel like there's no other way. If you're in a position where you don't like how you've been doing it, but you don't know there's another way, you're actually in a really good position to play and explore. And I think that's what this Gemini season is giving us an opportunity to do. And not coming out of, because there's no in and out. It's all around always, right? We've had this pandemic on the planet. However, there's been a silent pandemic on the planet for thousands of years. It's all relative. So it's about what's wanting to emerge through you now. And embracing this cheeky, mischievous, multi-dimensional Gemini energy to let yourself put new feet out. Let yourself walk with new feet. Maybe you want to dress differently. Maybe you want to play up with how you express yourself on social media. Maybe you want to change up how you communicate with people in your friendship group. Maybe you want to change up your music. Again, coming from a place of what makes sense to you, not what makes sense to your partnership, what makes sense to the world, what makes sense to your work, what makes sense to your clientele, what makes sense to your family. Really asking yourself, what makes sense to me? And see where that takes you. So that's my little new moon update on the new moon in Gemini happening on the 22nd today. But again, this theme I feel will be resonant throughout the month of Gemini season, 28 days of Gemini season. And if you are interested to embody your unique archetypal and astrological blueprint for women, this first round is just for women. I invite you into the Temple of Honey. This is an 8-week group immersion into your unique astrological embodiment. and I'm super excited to launch. We've got a beautiful group forming up, so I just want to put that here, and I'll drop the link below for you to reach out. And I'm sending you all lots of love during this Gemini season. Get playful, get curious, get explorative, find what puts that gem and that sparkle in your eye, and allow that to lead you into a new way of communicating yourself. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be big, bold, crazy changes. I honestly think a lot of that's already happened, especially in January, February, with a lot of the conjunctions we had. Whether it was conscious or subconscious, there's been a lot shifting, and I think now it's about kind of like stepping out and seeing what that actually looks like and talks like and feels like, even if we're not sure. Trusting that deeper voice within us. All right, lots of love to you all.